Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Good Movies, the podcast where we discuss, wait for it, good movies, the filmographies of acclaimed film directors. This week, we are continuing our series on Martin Scorcese, his second feature film, Boxcar Bertha. My name is Forrest.
And my name is Kevin. And join us as we discuss the illustrious career of Martin Scorsese. Forrest, this is our third episode now. Pretty exciting. And as we always like to start our episodes, what were your initial experiences with Boxcar Bertha?
I promise this is not going to be the same theme every time, but I knew it existed mostly by making this list. But I guess, well, let me back up. I've known this one existed a little longer than Who's That Knocking at My Door. Years ago, I did a Scorsese rewatch right around the time Wolf of Wall Street came out, and actually it was right after. But I kind of went through his IMDb page, and I did kind of a greatest hits from him. And this one did not have an IMDb score high enough for me to watch it.
Nice. Yes, standard. I like it.
People on IMDb have no sense of humor. And I'm canceled just like that 3 episodes in.
Oh, no. No, that's not true.
So I was aware it existed. What about your thoughts, Kevin? Any initial...
You got a big leg up on me. I'd never heard of this until you made the list and we decided to do this podcast. So I learned about it a few weeks ago when you sent me the full list of Scorsese movies.
So I have to ask, how did you watch this?
Amazon Prime. It's streaming for free on Amazon Prime as of October 2023, which was awesome.
Oh, okay. I'm slowly gathering the DVDs, so I went old school. And this one worked. This one actually worked.
Good.
So,
I had an issue with Who's That Knocking at My Door, at least on my player. Did you ever get a chance to try it on yours?
It starts to play, but it doesn't finish. Like, you can hear the Warner Brothers sound, but then it just fades to black and nothing happens. It's really bizarre.
Got some weird Chinese knockoff, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, to quote last episode, that's why you don't loan money to the Chinese men.
Oh gosh.
Now I'm canceled. Just kidding. I don't. That's not my line. That's from Who's That Knocking at My Door. And if you haven't,
canceled.
No. If we're gonna cancel Scorsese, we should have canceled Tarantino a long time ago. And
true.
There's plenty of other directors. So I guess before we go into a synopsis, Kevin, what are your initial thoughts on Boxcar Bertha?
Well, I came into it thinking it might have been a spin-off of one of the Boxcar children. Did you ever read those books growing up? Kind
of. Are you serious?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, this is Martin Scorsese, the guy who made Goodfellas. I doubt he's directing the Boxcar Children movie.
Well, it could have been the gritty offshoot, the gritty spin-off of the forgotten Boxcar Bertha, who left all of the other kids and decided to start her own life. But what?
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd watch it too. I enjoyed those books a lot as a kid.
If we can't make it in the podcasting world, we'll that'll be our directorial debut.
We'll get an option on it. I love it. But yeah, no, I loved it. I had a great time with this movie. It was short and sweet, under 90 minutes, but it was a lot of fun. It was very, very different from Who's That Knocking at My Door. It was a lot more fun than that one from my initial reading, but it was a good time. Once again, I needed to kind of do a little follow-up afterwards to kind of totally understand what was happening, because a lot of these older movies, they tend to just throw you in the action, which is fun. I like when the movies don't hold your hand, but yeah, I had a good time with it. How about you, Forrest?
Well, I didn't love it as much as Who's That Knocking at My Door. I didn't love that one either, but I didn't hate this. This one it's commonly referred to as one of Scorsese's worst, and I can kind of see why. I didn't hate the story though. I know you said that you like the short and sweet runtime. I think it hurt it in this case.
Did you want more Bertha?
Well, yeah. Not just her, but it's kind of like it felt kind of rushed being in 90 minutes. Like I know we're just coming off of 3.5 hour Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't think this needed to be this long, but I think 2.5 hours just to really flesh out the story. I wrote, you guys can read this review in my letterboxd later. I would love an alternate universe where this gets a 3-hour cut and happens much later in Scorsese's career. That's my take.
I'd pay to see that.
But I didn't hate the story. I dove into a little bit of the criticism and why it's considered his worst, and it's still not a bad movie though. It's kind of like, okay, even the Beatles' worst album is still pretty good. That's how I think of it.
I gotcha. Well, sounds like you didn't enjoy it as much as I did, but that's cool. What was some of the other criticism? I'm curious. I didn't dive into that.
We'll get into it as we talk a little bit more, but it brings to mind, I read a little bit about this, but it was produced by Roger Corman. And so he is known for the Pope of pop cinema, the spiritual godfather of the new Hollywood, the king of cult. He's known for low-budget cult films. Do you know where the term exploitation comes from?
You know what? I've heard that my whole time watching movies, but I've never really dove into it. So I dove into the Wikipedia of exploitation films after watching this. But
yeah, okay. What'd you find?
Did more research than me.
Oh, what'd you find?
Oh yeah, well it was interesting because I've heard just even Scorsese's last movie, Who's That Knocking at My Door, there was the talk of, we'll get this released if you can make it into a sexploitation movie or blaxploitation movies, or all those type of terms have been thrown around. And then when I went to look into it, there's of course dozens of subgenres of exploitation movies, but overall they're a little racy, they're a little more exciting, they're usually low budget, they're diving into an issue of the time. These movies, they might be really fun and exciting in the moment, but not too relevant in the near future. That's kind of what I took away from it. Forrest, do you have anything to add or anything I got wrong?
No, that's pretty much you're actually more in depth than I was going to go. I was just talking about the criticisms are with sex and violence scenes, which
gotcha.
I'll be honest, they're pretty tame by today's standards, but I think I'm trying to think of like how Tarantino does his films. Those are over the top violence, and maybe it's because it's over the top, it's not considered exploitation, or maybe that's subject to debate. I'll say it. Pulp Fiction's my favorite movie of all time. Also one of the most violent, and it held the record for some time of the most use of the word fuck in a movie. Maybe I might have to fact check that, but I know it's up there. I'm not going to fact check that for this episode because we're not talking about Quentin Tarantino. We're talking about Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, well, I could see even with those tame sex scenes and violence in this movie in 1972, they probably thought different.
Yeah, and so I'm not. It's not really all that. It's more rushed, and if they focused more on developing the story and the journey, I think that would have helped the movie.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But it's also hard to do in 90 minutes, and I think we'll see in the next film, Mean Streets, where Martin Scorsese really comes to his own. We'll get to that point eventually, but he had to go to that place to get to this one, and it sounds like I'm being negative about this. I promise I'm not going to shit on this movie the whole time. I'll sing my praises as we get there. Are you ready to get into the synopsis part?
Yeah, let's start diving into a recap of this guy.
Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is I'm going to quote this from Wikipedia. It's a loose adaptation of Sister of the Road, a pseudo-autobiographical account of the fictional character Bertha Thompson. What the fuck does that mean?
I love that. It's like a fake inception of stories here. I was confused. I was reading the same thing, and I was like, wait, so was she real or was she not? Was she inspired by somebody else? And yeah, it seems like it's all made up.
The most I could find is the author Ben L. Reitman. It was the story of three women combined into one for the sake of the novel, which is an interesting concept in and of itself.
Cool.
So we start the movie with a younger Bertha. I think she was younger. I'm not.
Yeah, hard to tell. It wasn't super clear.
She's on a field with her father and a couple of other workers. Is one of those workers Bill?
I don't think Bill was there. I think just Vaughn. No. Bill was definitely there. Apologies. Yeah, this is kind of like a meeting of everyone. At least the core three are all kind of doing different tasks in this same field.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that it was all three. I just
Yeah, Vaughn was there, Bill was there, and then Bertha. But the other main character, Rake, he doesn't come until later. But Vaughn, Bill, and Bertha are all together in this first scene.
Oh, okay. I saw Bill and I saw. I guess I didn't see Vaughn. That's.
Yeah, he was their aircraft mechanic.
Oh, good catch. Good catch. I did not. But, I forgot to go into the cast. So the film stars Barbara Hershey as Boxcar Bertha. Have you seen Barbara Hershey in anything else?
You know what? I pulled up her IMDb, and she's still working today. Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
The movie isn't that old, 50 years old, but yeah, it's awesome she's still working. And I saw a lot of recognizable things, but I didn't recognize her. It looks like she's done a lot of horror and a lot of TV.
So what I know her from is the Insidious movies.
Ah, those are scary, man. I only saw the first one.
I saw those years ago. I'm not a big scary movie fan, mostly because I prefer to read horror than I do to watch horror. Just because my imagination runs wild. She's probably most known for The Portrait of a Lady. That's what it's called. That's probably what she's most known for. I haven't seen that. I only knew about her from the Insidious movies, and I didn't know this at the time. She's in The Last Temptation of Christ, which is another Scorcese movie down the line. That one had a high enough IMDb rating for me to watch the first time I did this. So we'll get to that when we get there. Okay, so that's a good catch. We also have that all the characters were in that scene. We also, not all of them. We also have David Carradine as Big Bill Shelley. Have you recognized him in anything else?
Oh, Kill Bill, of course.
Yeah, there's the Tarantino connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've known him for. And
yeah,
during my digging, so David Carradine and Barbara Hershey were married for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think actually during the filming of this.
Ah, okay.
But I guess he had a lot of problems, and I think her career kind of tanked the longer she stayed with him.
Oh, that's too bad.
And then once they split up, her career got better, and he's in a lot of kung fu. He's in the show Kung Fu, but he's in a lot of martial art movies. And here's the sad, interesting fact. I hope this isn't a trend among Scorsese films, but he had kind of he's 72, so I can't say premature, but he died from autoerotic asphyxiation.
I remember that. That was strange.
Yeah, in Bangkok.
Oh, wow.
Hell of a way to go out. So yeah, the other guys I haven't really recognized in anything. We have Barry Primus, like you mentioned, as Rake Brown. Bernie Casey as Von Morton. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got Barry Primus's IMDb up here. Looks like he's been a character actor in a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So like up until recently, what's his name? David O. Russell. Looks like he's in a bunch of David O. Russell movies.
Okay.
Those are always quite interesting, but yeah, I don't really recognize him from anything but this was a long time ago, so.
It also has John Carradine, who played H. Buckram Satoris, the rich train guy.
Gotcha.
And he's had quite the career. He's most known for The Grapes of Wrath, the Ten Commandments. I know him. He was the voice of the great owl in The Secret of Nim.
Nice.
Which was about a decade after this. That's a classic. Anyway, okay, now that
I say not too many main characters in this movie. It's pretty much that core four, and then a few others kind of pop in and out of the movie.
Yeah, that was interesting. Like in the opening credits, they also credit Victor Argo and David Osterhout as MacGyver number 1 and MacGyver number 2. All of the others don't. They're credited at the end, but they're not a whole lot of screen time.
Yeah, I mean, like we kind of clued in at the beginning, the story it jumps around a little bit. There's some filler in there for a short film.
Yeah, and okay, so it does jump around. Like I'm guessing this takes place over a period of a couple of years, even though I don't feel like it made it that clear.
I agree. Yeah, it was tough to follow timelines, especially like you said in the beginning. Like, was she supposed to be a kid? Did she dive right into her new solo life right after the first scene? It was not super clear. But yeah, there's people getting into jail and out of jail. But overall, I think the story was still fun.
It was a fun story. I wish I had more of it. That's my I love me a good runaway journey story.
Mm-hmm.
But on this field, so it's her father crashes his crop dusting plane. That's what happens, and I guess she's orphaned. We don't hear anything that happened to the mother. And then the montage happens. I guess that was the Great Depression, and so because she's orphaned, that's how she took to freight hopping and became Boxcar Bertha.
I like the term freight hopping. I was also curious if it's stowaway or is that just on ships, not on trains? I don't know. But freight hopping is a good term.
Yeah. I wrote in my notes, so in this scene where she's gathered around right before her father dies, they're discussing the plane. She's scratching her thigh. Was there any significance to that, or just to kind of symbolize that she's a free spirit?
I think that was just the exploitation part of it. Like they were showing. I think they were just trying to make her sexy because there was people checking her out while she was doing that. And which was kind of uncomfortable. And then, like, once her father dies, I know they were like trying to grab her to console her, but it felt, I don't know. It was like kind of uncomfortable. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Which leads us into our next scene number 2, essentially, after the intro montage. Anything else to say on the montage, or do you want to dive into the next scene?
No, I guess it was just showing that this all takes place during the Great Depression, and I think the montage, it's basically a way to get from the opening scene where she becomes an orphan to now where she meets Bill again, and he takes her during the Union riot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And actually, like this would have been interesting to expand upon. I think Big Bill, as they call him, is a super interesting character. Mm-hmm. And the fact that throughout the film, when they do want to, they eventually turn to a life of crime, but he wants to be an honest working union worker. He just wants to get paid more and be protected by the big rich folks. So some things never change. This film is over. 1972. This film's 51 years old, and we still have this going on in 2023.
Yeah. I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but we both live in Michigan, and there's all these auto worker strikes going on right now because of the unions. And
yeah, good point.
Dive into that right now, but it's definitely, it feels more modern than you would think for a Great Depression railroad union story.
Right. So he takes her to save her. From what I gather, it's like a reunion of old friends. I use that term loosely, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
My take was that she was 14, 15 when her father died, and then she was 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there when she came back when she met Bill the second time around.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case, but who knows? It was the 30s.
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
And here's exploitation number 2, sex scene. The first of a few.
Mm-hmm. they have a literal roll in the hay, which is pretty funny. So as to her
I've never heard that euphemism before. That's funny.
No, it's in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, I have seen that. It's just been a while.
Oh yeah, it's Halloween time. I can't believe I haven't watched that yet. I'll have to watch that tomorrow.
Oh.
But yeah, so the two of them, they get together. They recognize each other from the few years previous, and they run off from the Union riot, as you were saying, Forrest, and they jump in a boxcar, as they do. And they start cozying up around a fire. I think that was a major fire hazard. They literally started a fire inside of a wooden boxcar.
Filled with hay.
Filled with hay. But they seemed fine. And they had didn't seem like the most consensual sexual experience. But
I wrote that in my notes. She looks uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then she kind of changes her tune a little, like a minute or so later. But yeah, the beginning of it was a little off.
I mean, throughout the film, she seems super in love with this guy. So it is genuine. It's but unfortunately, looking at this through the eyes of two white dudes
in 2023,
it
didn't look great. Especially since they've just seen each other for the first time in potentially years, and he's relatively forceful, but then it seems to turn more loving after that. But then after this though, they get together.
They do. They're pretty much a couple the whole time, and he's gone the next day. And I wrote that he left her money. Yeah. I don't know if that was out of pity or like a weird prostitution thing, or
yeah, I wrote that down too. That was confusing, and I just misspoke there. They don't really get together right now, but you can tell they've made a connection, a lasting connection, even if they've only seen each other a few times now.
Well spoken. She joins a craps game in the next scene.
Yeah, so she's just wandering around, living her best life, pretty much, and yeah, takes to gambling.
Where we meet Rake Brown, who is a gambler, and he's exposed as a Yankee due to his accent.
Yeah, it's funny. He's suspiciously quiet the whole time, and she pokes him and prods him into be like, why aren't you saying nothing? And then he speaks in a Yankee accent, and all the Southerners get pissed off at him immediately. It's a pretty fun scene. Yeah.
So after she meets him, so this is where I wish I would have taken better notes. So remind me again, they go back to his room. There's no exploitation in this part, but
I took pretty good notes here. I can jump in if you'd like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So
bake them away, toys.
What was that?
I said bake them away, toys.
What they got here is, so she pokes and prods him into speaking, and he gets chastised for being a Yank, taking advantage of the Southern folk. And she's like, oh, I can teach you how to speak with a Southern accent. So there's a fun little scene of her teaching him to speak in a Southern accent so he doesn't get chastised all the time while being around in the South. Until they link up together. Not clear if they're sexually involved or not, but either way.
I don't think they were.
Yeah,
I think Rake wanted to, but it wasn't happening.
Yeah, I think that was the case too. But yeah, so then they get together and they're gonna do a little gambling con coming up. So they get together with a group of bigwigs. Not really clear what they do. But they start playing a card game. She's dressed up all pretty to distract these two rich guys while Rake is playing poker and he's going to cheat. He gets caught cheating then, though.
And a war outbreaks.
Oh, yeah. They get caught up in a fight. And the talking, the conversation with these guys before the fight starts is interesting because these rich guys, they're like, oh, this country's going to crap. There's commies everywhere. This depression is killing everything. It's kind of an interesting little commentary on what's going on. But yeah, then they get up in a fight there, and one of the rich guys gets shot.
And then it's back on the boxcar.
Back to the boxcar.
So a couple of things I wrote. For someone who's running around and sleeping on boxcars and stuff, Bertha had beautiful hair.
Oh yeah, she had great,
beautiful, perfect hair. It's amazing how that works. Running around, sleeping in boxcars.
Well, that's how she was just one of a kind.
And I also wrote when they're hopping onto the boxcar, Rake is struggling to get on. I actually thought that was well done because I feel like I'd have a really hard time hopping boxcars.
Yeah, that'd be tough. You can tell she's a pro. I wrote down from that part, Bertha, marathon queen. She can outrun him easily.
I wrote nice struggle, Rake.
Nice. Oh, I called him a dandy too because he dresses quite funny, and everyone's making fun of the way he dresses because he dresses very, very loud.
He's a Yankee.
Mm-hmm.
And who should be back on the boxcar?
Oh, we got Bill. Bill and a
Big Bill is back.
Are just so happen to be the exact same boxcar that they are jumping into.
Right. And Rake tries to play a game of cards, tries to show off because Bertha goes right to Bill.
Oh yeah. Rake
and drops the cards. Way to go. Way to go, champ.
He lost his game pretty quick there.
But it doesn't matter because soon the cops come looking for stowaways.
Mm-hmm.
And heroic Bill pushes Bertha to safety. And they all go to jail except Bertha.
Yeah, she's good at staying on the run, that's for sure.
And who do we meet in the jail cell, Kevin?
Vaughn again. So
we
these
do.
guys just keep bumping into each other. It's amazing how small the South must be at this time.
Yeah, I almost wasn't sure where they were. They're not in New York having a steamed ham, that's for sure. A little callback to Simpsons and the first, I guess, second episode.
Yes,
I believe I believe this takes place in Arkansas.
I saw filmed in Arkansas, and then the only location they call out specifically is Memphis.
Yeah, but it wasn't actually Memphis.
Yeah,
though.
they were like talking back and forth. Like, is that Memphis? I don't know, but just the generic South, it seems to be.
Yeah. And in jail, after Bill is reconnecting with Vaughn, a riot breaks out, and he's beaten because he's friends with a black guy.
Yeah, you got some fun Southern racism there to sweeten the pot of this movie. Some more exploitation for us.
But what I did like, though, it was very satisfying seeing the deputy and the cops beaten.
Oh, yeah.
So during this scene, a riot breaks out. Everybody is killed except for Vaughn, Rake, and Bill. Surprisingly, only the main characters survived. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah, it was pretty funny. My favorite part was the one inmate that tried to block a shotgun with a mattress. I mean, better than nothing, but still.
It might have slowed it down.
Yeah, it might have.
They are then sent out to work. And who comes?
Chain gang.
What was it? It reminded me of Cool Head Luke.
Oh yeah.
And who comes up in a car? Our friend Bertha. The cop who's watching them is distracted, so Bertha kind of seduces him to a flat that she created herself. And I wrote in my notes before it was revealed, did Bertha steal that car? Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Had to have. One of my favorite little bits here, I don't know if you noticed, Forrest, but they did a nice plant for that with that specific cop. So when they're in the jail in the previous scene, this cop is talking to one of his colleagues. He's bragging about how he helped some woman with her car and she either slept with him or something, and he was like super stoked about it. So like they planted that seed that this cop is like really susceptible to like want to help out a cute lady who looks like it needs his help. So Bertha wouldn't have known that, but it was a fun little callback from good writing, I'd say.
That is good writing. I just took it as Bertha she was playing her hand, and I think she was just shooting her shot at seducing him.
Yeah, and it works.
It did.
Yeah, what's she do? She tells him to close your eyes and open your mouth. I don't know what this guy thought he was getting, but she gets a gun in the mouth.
Oh, she had a line about that she was a missionary. That I actually laughed at.
That was good. She's like, I'm on my way to Africa. I'm a missionary.
Yeah, that I got a laugh out of.
Yeah, it was solid.
And she busts them out. They're on the run from a stolen car.
Mm-hmm. And then we get a really fun car chase with the worst driving police sheriff I've ever seen.
I loved that though. It was in this modern world, it was kind of fun seeing a car chase with two old 1920s car and that really old cop car.
Yeah, it was super fun, and they did a great job. They escape easily, and the sheriff who was following them, he's just slipping and sliding all over the place. He just doesn't know how to drive.
Right, and he crashes. I don't think he dies, or if he does, it's not important. But they have a creative way to cover the stolen car.
I don't recall what happened for us. I forgot.
Oh, the train crashed it.
Oh, yeah.
So they planted the car on the railroad, and the train just kind of ran it over.
Yeah. And then they take that opportunity to rob this train.
They do, and they turn to bank robbers.
Yep. So they're just taking whatever they can get.
And they're back on the train. I wrote in my notes they made it to Arkansas. I can't recall how they specifically said it, but...
Is this the bit where they roll the train in and the station guy is like, this is the first time this train's ever been on time? Or is that later?
Good point. I think that's this part.
I think that's this part, yeah. So they steal just the engine of the train to escape. And when they roll into the next station... the railroad guy who's there is like, this is the first time you guys have been on time, but where's the rest of it? And then they all just run off into the distance. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So a couple of notes. So on the train, I noticed that I wrote in my notes that Vaughn does long division.
I wrote that down too.
Do you know how to do long division?
No, not at
all. I don't either.
I don't know if I ever knew. Maybe in like 5th grade, whenever you learn long division.
Yeah, and then right around that time, we all had our fancy graphing calculators from middle school on, so I don't know how to do long division. I don't think I really need to know, but...
I mean, I could figure out 12,000 divided by 4, but on paper, doing it long division style, I don't think so.
No, but then I realized, they had to do it back then. They might not have even had calculators back then.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little
side note, you can edit this out. What a gosh darn monopoly deal that Texas Instruments has, that every single student has to buy a $100 calculator when they turn 15. Ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right. It is all... I'm not editing this out, by the way. This is good talk. You're right, though. I didn't think... I cannot name another brand of graphic calculator.
Nope. I don't know if that's still a thing. I haven't been in school for 15 years, so...
I feel like I still see them, but maybe they're just kind of obsolete because now kids have Chromebooks and stuff.
Yeah, you can do anything a graphing calculator can do. I'm sure you can do on a phone.
Right.
Higher resolution.
Am I so out of touch?
We don't have any high schoolers, so...
No, it's the children who are wrong. Yeah, that was a stretch, but I'm not editing this part out. This is funny.
Awesome.
A couple of other notes. They arrived at this destination, and specifically in the part where they're walking, I guess, to where they're staying.
Yeah.
But here's something that maybe I'm being unfair in this criticism. I noticed here a lot of the cinematography feels dated.
Okay.
Like low budget, which I know Scorcese wasn't the big director back then that he was now, but and maybe it's just a product of its time, but you could film something better on an iPhone today. So I don't know if you noticed that. I guess I found it distracting, but I don't know if that's a fair criticism.
Is this the part when they're going to their hideaway house that has all that weird decorations and stuff in it?
I think it's around this part.
Okay, yeah. This didn't jump out at me specifically, but that's not saying much. So I trust you that it's not the best. It's not Scorsese at its best.
Right. I'm guessing it's just a product of the time and Scorsese not being the A-list director that he is today.
Yeah.
And so they're in there, and I also wrote on the no, they might still be on the train. They're either in the train or they're
I have this there where this is their other hideout. My mistake.
yes, okay, it's that other hideout. Did you notice
it looks like more of like a city flat, it kind of looked like to me. I'm not sure.
Did you notice that Rake made a flaming Moe?
No. Oh yeah, of course.
And that is what I wrote in my notes.
Lit his drink on fire and just let it burn for quite some time.
Just like the flaming Moe.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
But he didn't have cough syrup in there though.
Who knows? It was the 20s during the Depression.
Yeah, they had to do with what they could.
Prohibition wasn't that long ago though.
Mm-hmm.
Like so you know what? The whole Flaming Moe episode is connected to this because Moe is robbing Homer from his idea, and they're all robbing the train, and they decided to phone in on this second where the drink is lit on fire. It's all connected. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
That had to be how the Simpsons writers wrote this.
It's perfect. The Simpsons, everything. This is the one time the Simpsons didn't do it first.
Yes. Yep, you heard it here, folks. All right, and they turn into robbing banks.
Yeah.
So they've they're robbing trains. They're robbing banks.
What was their gateway thing? And now they're just moving.
I think it was the gambling.
Yes.
And just like
first bit.
Well, at least with Rake and Bertha, it was the gambling. I think Vaughn and Bill were just kind of like I also wrote like Bill wants to be an honest working man. Like he wants to just. They show that he doesn't like this life of crime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they show multiple times, and there's I won't jump ahead too far, but yeah, it's very clear that he doesn't care for this, and Bertha loves it though. There's she has some great heist scenes where she's messing with people. It's a good time.
Yes, she's good at it. I also wrote that in the bank robbing scene, they were probably mostly extras, but they were really bad actors.
Yeah.
There was another neat transition in the sit down scene where they're talking. It's where the four are robbing the bank, and remind me again. It's where John Carradine's character is talking to the two MacGyver boys.
Yeah.
And it's kind of going back and forth. I'm not sure if that's a Scorsese trademark at this point, but it'd be interesting to explore. You know how last film they kept doing a back and forth?
Yeah, between when they're having conversation.
Yeah, and then I think it was whatever was going on in Harvey Keitel's mind. But I think that's what was going on here. It was kind of a back and forth transition where they mentioned they said sit down, and then it led to the two men being scolded by Satoris.
Yeah.
Because they were his trains that were getting robbed.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is where I don't know, maybe I'm just stupid, but I thought it was kind of hard to follow.
I didn't think it was hard to follow in the moment, but as we're recapping, I'm getting a little lost. So I think we are losing that core story a little bit.
Do you remember the part where George Washington's portrait is changing?
No. Oh wait, yeah, I do. I don't remember.
That's this part,
was, but I remember. Okay, gotcha. So I guess we are getting a little lost in the middle here. Maybe the folks are right that this is not Scorsese's best.
Just my own anecdote, but we'll keep going because now we have another sex scene.
Oh yeah,
and I liked this one better than the first one.
Yes, it was very consensual.
It did. It seemed like they were both having good times, and Her hair tangled in her jewelry was a nice touch.
Oh yeah, it was for both men and women. We got some male nudity in there as well. Not full frontal, but.
Does this movie pass the Bechdel test?
You know what? I think we get women talking to each other later in the movie. But I didn't do a deep dive to see if this passes. But for a reminder, the Bechdel test, which I learned about from another wonderful podcast called the Bechdel Cast, is when two women speak to each other in a movie. They both have to have names, so they can't be woman number two. Two women speak to each other who have names, not about a male character. So they have to talk about something that's not about dudes. And
I don't think this passes it.
No?
I don't
think
think
so. I have
so.
to double check with some of those later scenes. But
well, who are the other women actors in this?
they're all prostitutes, so probably not.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm jumping a little bit of ahead, but when she says, "Are you from town? Come with me," it's leading to a prostitution ring. That's for men.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty light pass there. So yeah, I'm gonna say this does not pass the Bechdel test.
That's all right.
But I'd say Bertha is a pretty progressive character.
Yes, I would agree with that. Then they get ready to set up another robbery.
Yeah.
Bertha's dress is falling off during this whole scene.
Yeah, the party.
Well, yeah, and like right before, like in the car too.
Gosh, yeah, it's pretty funny. So here's where your exploitation comes in again.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, if she had worn a dress that actually fit, would that have taken away anything?
No,
I don't think it would have.
I mean, she wasn't like. It wasn't like a specific scene where she was meant to be like distracting people or anything. Like she needed to be in a nice dress to get into the nice party. Right.
Yeah, and so this is where they do go to the like an actual party. Like they're robbing all the party guests. It's one of Scorcese's parties, which is why he goes ham on a revenge.
Oh yeah.
Jeez, I mentioned I was a millennial, right?
Oh yeah, we're both millennials.
Trying to be all professional. There I go, using the word ham. Yeah, but basically they kind of con their way into a party. The bouncer is asking for their ticket, and Vaughn just holds up a gun and says, "Here's my ticket."
Yeah, it's great.
And I wrote, "Nice ticket, Vaughn." I did like that. And I don't know who the actor was who played the guard, but even if he was an uncredited extra, he did a good job. And it repeats again, another robbery. So here's where, like, I wish they would have gone into more of the journey rather than just robberies over and over. Like, maybe exploring Bertha's past before she met these guys. That's where I think the film is kind of weak, is it's getting kind of repetitive.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you said, like I enjoyed watching it. That didn't really jump out at me as I was watching it. But as we're recapping it, it's like I can't keep all these robberies in check. They all run together.
Right. And I mean, even just a few minutes ago, we were having trouble recapping some of this.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting confused at which robbery happened when.
Exactly.
But we did watch it.
Oh, yeah. Final train robbery now.
Yeah. It is Scorcese's train again. And I'm not even 100% sure. I got the impression he's the owner of the train companies.
Yeah, that's what I understood as well.
Okay.
At the end of the last scene, while they were at the party, there's a great